Hi folks, today we're looking at colour vision, and the first thing that I want you to do is click on the PhET simulation. You'll get this screen. We are going to use both of these simulations, but if you start off with the single bulb, it builds up quite nicely. There's quite a few little toggles and widgets that you can change. To start off with, make sure that your flashlight, your little torch, is selected to this bulb, because that will just produce normal light, what's called white light. Down here, if you toggle this switch here, it puts a filter in the way, and here you can change the color of the filter. So to start off with, when you shine a light in your eyes, if you look at a light bulb or something like that, it might look a little bit yellowy depending on what kind of light bulbs you got, but it should be producing what's called white light, which is a mixture of all the colours together. If I put a blue filter in the way, this blue filter is going to absorb all of the colours except blue, so that when I shine my light through that, all I end up seeing is blue light. So everything else, the red, the green, the yellow, has all been absorbed by this filter, which is a little bit weird because you tend to think of, if something absorbs something, then it kind of takes on the characteristics of that object. So if a sponge absorbs water, it becomes wet. So you kind of think maybe, oh, okay, well, if this filter has absorbed red, it should become red. But it doesn't. That's not how light works in this sense. This is a blue filter, so it absorbs everything except blue, lets the blue through, and the blue is what we see. We see blue in our eyes, the filter looks blue, there's no red or yellow or green sneaking anywhere. If I change the colour of the filter, I can change the colour that I see. So use that for maybe the first little part of the sheet. I think most of the sheet is then using this. So this bulb produces white light. This bulb doesn't just produce yellow light, it will produce coloured light depending on how you set this. So let's say I use a red light, that will produce red light. And if I use a red filter, there we go. You've got to, although they kind of look similar, this is a darker red, so it's actually blocking it out. You've got to look at exactly where your filter and your bulb are and line them up exactly. So even if they look similar, you think, oh, but that red filter's blocking out red. It's actually a dark red filter blocking out orange or something like that. So you've got to line them up. So if I have a blue bulb and I use a red filter, there is no red light there, so it's going to block it out completely and you don't end up seeing anything. But if I use, let's say I've got a blue light and a blue filter, the light's just going to go straight through as if there's nothing there. But if I use a dark blue light and let's say a light blue filter, you should be able to see that a little bit of the light is getting through, and that's looking at some of the more challenge questions later on, a lot later on in the sheet. Yes, so you can click most of these things and change them. The main thing I want you to change is whether or not the filter's there, and change between these two bulbs. Changing between that and that doesn't really show you anything, so I wouldn't worry too much about that one. And that one just shows you the eyeball and the optic nerve in the brain. That's just a picture, it doesn't really show you anything useful. If you change to this one down here, the red, green and blue bulbs, you can do colour mixing. I'm letting you know that that's there just because you might end up clicking on it anyway. I don't think this is the best simulation for looking at this. I think there is a better one that I've linked to here. So this one works by, you can click on these circles and move them around, and you can overlap them. So if I overlap, if I mix red and green, I get yellow. If I mix red and blue, I get a colour called magenta. And if I mix blue and green, I get a colour called cyan. Some of you, if you've done art or you're a big fan of art, you might be protesting and saying, but those aren't the primary colours. That's not right. Red and blue, okay, they're primary colours, but that should be yellow. And that is absolutely true for art. For mixing paint in art, this should be yellow. But we are mixing light, and it's slightly different. Okay, so you need to have those two kind of compartments in your brain for light mixing in science, in physics, and colour mixing in art. Okay, have a look at the Show My Homework assignments. It's all on the sheet, so the extension and all the main tasks are on that sheet.